Well, tonight we're in Job part 14. Can you believe it? Part 14. We hope to be done soon, but we're taking our time. I really wanted to summarize a lot of this, but I never had peace about that. I summarized a little bit of Eliphaz's first speech, if you'll remember. Just the last few verses of that, I just summarized that. And I just felt like I had done wrong there. And so we've been going verse by verse. I mean, we're not skipping anything. And I'm going to pray to God and ask him to let me skip a little bit of Elihu's dissertation, because he's pretty lengthy there. And Job is going to be a little lengthy tonight. We're going to do half of his final speech tonight and the rest of it next week. And these are really fascinating things that Job has to say. And I believe we're going to be blessed by it. So his three friends have stopped talking. They said some good things, and some of the things they said were things that you'll see again throughout the Bible, Old and New Testament. Some of the things that they said, some of the other writers, some of the other experiences, some of the other wisdom that was shared in the Bible, used some of the things that they said. So not all of it was bad. Some of it was interesting. They said some bad things. They said some wrong things, some incorrect things. And that caused a lot of problems, for Job, because he was rebutting all of those things. And they said some ugly things to him. They were on the attack with him for the last part of that, especially. And that was uncalled for. And the good, the bad, the ugly that they shared, none of it was helpful to Job. None of it really spoke to his situation. And you can say a lot of good things, but if it doesn't speak to the situation at hand, you're just wasting your time. And we've got to be sensitive to what someone is going through when we respond to them. It's very important that we do stuff like that, because we don't want to just blow some hot air. We want to help somebody when we're talking to them. They did stay with him, though, when no one else would. Remember, Job couldn't even hardly get his servant to come. He'd call him, and he wouldn't come. His wife found his breath repulsive, and she obviously didn't want to be around him. Children turned their backs on him. Everybody stayed away. His family, his friends, everybody stayed away from him except for these three guys. And so they've got that on their resume, but they were little, if any, help at all to him. So Job didn't appreciate their speeches, though I get the impression that he enjoyed arguing with them. There was a lot of arguing going back and forth, and Job seemed to be totally engaged in that. He was, I don't know if he enjoyed it or if he just felt like it was necessary, but he did a lot of talking as well. And God was not pleased with these guys either. And let's take another trip on the time machine, the biblical time machine. Last week we took a trip to hear what God had to say to Job right at the end, a little bit of what God had to say to Job. And now we're going to take another trip to the future. And as we do, I can imagine that as Job's three friends heard God giving Job a thorough talking to, giving him a stern talking to, that they were probably feeling pretty good about themselves, pretty pleased with what they had done and how they had handled the situation. They probably felt like they were listening to God just endorse everything that they had done. And I can just hear them now. Go, God, go. Let him have it. We tried to straighten him out, but he wouldn't listen. Get him good. And he deserves your punishment, God. I can just hear them saying that, because this was their theme just about throughout the whole time they were talking. But then God turned his attention to them after he got through with Job, in Job chapter 42, verse 7, we're just going to read this one. 42, verse 7, it says, "After the Lord had finished speaking to Job, he said to Eliphaz the Temanite, I am angry with you and your two friends, for you have not spoken accurately about me as my servant Job has." All of a sudden, their heart must have sank. I can see them just turning white as a sheet. They thought that they were going to get God to brag on them there. They thought, man, God's fixing to pat us on the back and say, way to go. You did a wonderful job here. I appreciate the help. But God didn't say that. They thought God was going to maybe give them a major award for being such good friends and trying their best to get Job to confess. But there wasn't any of that. But instead, God said he was angry with them. Over the words that they said, over the portrayal they had of him, he was angry with them. And I don't know about you, but I don't want to make God angry. I don't want God to look at me and declare, I am angry with you, like he did those guys. As for Pastor Phil has been preaching on Sundays the book of Revelation, and there is a day when the justice of God, the judgment of God, is going to be poured out on this earth, and everything is going to be set right at that time, and we're going to see that justice of God take place. And at the conclusion, there's going to be great victory over the enemy, great victory over the devil. And those that oppose God, and those that tried to hinder the gospel, and those that turned their backs on God and rebelled against God, there is a reckoning day coming. And we don't want to get God angry with us. So we need to be sure that we are right with God. And I just thank God tonight for mercy. I thank God for my salvation. I believe that I need to hold on to the liberty that Christ has used to make me free, no matter what takes place in my life. And we need to all just say, God, whatever it takes, I'm holding on to that liberty that I have in Jesus Christ. Because it is, sometimes it isn't easy. Sometimes it's not the best situation that we find ourselves in. But we don't let go no matter what. And so with that in mind, Job wants to talk, and he talks about a variety of subjects. Now, I got to tell you, this is a very organized 5 chapters of the Bible. Very organized. It's very well categorized. There is no jumping from topic to topic. There is none of that. Every one of these points, Job stays on point. It is well said and well written. So we're going to go to Job chapter 27. This is Job's final speech. As Job continued speaking, which he tends to do, Job continued speaking. Verse 2, I vow by the living God who has taken away my rights, by the Almighty who has embittered my soul, as long as I live, while I have breath from God, my lips will speak no evil, and my tongue will speak no lies. I will never concede that you, he's talking to his 3 friends here, I will never concede that you are right. I will defend my integrity until I die. I will maintain my innocence without wavering. My conscience is clear for as long as I live. Job had had enough of this. You can just tell. He said, I'm just going to put it down on the line right now. You can talk all you want to, but you're not going to get through to me. I stand on my integrity. And boy, you have to have a lot of confidence to do that, and he had it because he knew he was right with God. Have you ever seen those old police shows, detective shows, where they get the suspect in the interrogation room and the bright lights, and they'd want to make the suspect as uncomfortable as possible. And they have the good cop, bad cop thing working, and they're just drilling the suspect, coming at it from all different directions, doing their very best to eke out some sort of confession from that suspect. And there have been some people that just couldn't take that, and they didn't do it, but they confessed anyway because they were under pressure. Well, Job was not having any of that. He wasn't going to confess to anything because he says, I didn't have anything to confess to. Verse 7 said, may my enemy be punished like the wicked, and my adversary like those who do evil. For what hope do the godless have when God cuts them off and takes away their life? Will God listen to their cry when trouble comes upon them? Can they take delight in the Almighty? Can they call to God at any time? I will teach you about God's power. I will not conceal anything concerning the Almighty. But you have seen all this, yet you say all these useless things to me. Job counted everything they had said to him as useless, and to be honest with you, it probably was. Here's a man that is suffering. He's lost everything. He's lost his kids. He has lost his health. He's in a lot of pain and suffering. And these guys come along and you know, they, like I say, they said a lot of good things, bad things, ugly things, but it was absolutely no use to Job. Verse 13. This is what the wicked will receive from God. This is their inheritance from the Almighty. They may have many children, but the children will die in war or starve to death. I don't know how he would know that, but, you know. Verse 15, those who survive will die of a plague. Boy, he's giving them the business. And not even their widows will mourn them. Evil people have piles of money and store away pounds of clothing, but the righteous will wear that clothing, and the innocent will divide that money. The wicked build houses as fragile as a spider's web. Now, I got to say, spider's webs are fragile, but you don't want to tangle with one that's got a spider in it. I've got bit by a brown recluse spider years ago, and I always said, and women just didn't like it, I always said that it was pain worse than childbirth. For some reason, they didn't agree. I don't understand it. But I tell you what, I have an argument there. When you get bit by a brown recluse spider, you don't want to do that again. But what is it about women that when they have a baby, it's not very long after that they want to have another one? So it's pain worse than childbirth. I stand on that. But I know it's like the spider's web he's talking about. A shelter made of branches. The wicked go to bed rich, but wake up to find that all their wealth is gone. Terror overwhelms them like a flood, and they are blown away in the storms of the night. The east wind carries them away, and they are gone. It sweeps them away. It whirls down on them without mercy. They struggle to flee from its power, but everyone jeers at them and mocks them. Now remember, Job had a problem with how God was treating some of the, I said some, he's had a general statement, how God was allowing these rich people to prosper and live happy lives, and their children were out frolicking and playing and laughing and dancing, and he didn't think that was fair. You know, he wanted them to be judged. He wanted them to be judged now because he was suffering and they weren't. And a lot of times when we're going through something, we'll look at somebody that's not going through anything, and we know that in our own righteous spirit that we're not doing half of what they're doing. So why are they prospering? Why are they enjoying the good life? And here I am suffering. We got to be careful of that stuff, because leave that stuff to God. God knows what He's doing with them, and God knows what He's doing with you. So it's almost like saying to ourselves, mind your own business. Stay true to yourself. Find out what God is doing for you, and don't worry so much about what He's doing in other people. Job had a problem with that, and it appears that he's starting to think a little more clearly here. It appears that this isn't totally right, but it appears that he's starting to come out of this depression a little bit. Now, will it last? We'll see as we go through this. And then we go to chapter 28, and I find this chapter just fascinating, remarkable. I'm fascinated that mankind was this advanced that early in our history. So Job 28:1. People know where to mine silver and how to refine gold. That's pretty neat. They know where to dig iron from the earth. I had no idea. And how to smelt copper from rock. They know how to shine light in the darkness and explore the farthest regions of the earth as they search in the dark for ore. They sink a mine shaft into the earth. I found this amazing. They sink a mine shaft into the earth far from where anyone lives. They descend on ropes, swinging back and forth. Food is grown on the earth above, but down below the earth is melted as by fire. Here the rocks contain precious lapis lazuli. Now, that's a Texas way to pronounce it. That may or may not be correct. And dust that contains gold. Now, lapis lazuli was one of the most sought-after stones that's been in use since man's history. It is a deep celestial blue color. My wife would like that. She's a color person. And she said it's a deep celestial blue, and it was a symbol of royalty and honor and power, spirit and wisdom, and the universal symbol of wisdom and truth back in Bible times. Lapis lazuli was among the most highly prized tribute paid to Egypt, obtained from the oldest mines in the world that were around 2000 BC and still in use today. And we reference in the Old Testament, a lot of references referred to it as sapphire, but they are different gems. Sapphire is not the same as lapis lazuli. So that's enough of that. Let's go to verse 7. That's just a fun fact. Verse 7, these are treasures no bird of prey can see, no falcon's eye observe. No wild animal has walked upon these treasures. No lion has ever set his paw there. People know how to tear apart flinty rocks and overturn the roots of mountains. They cut tunnels in the rocks and recover precious stones. Man, mining was pretty big back then, apparently. They dam up the trickling streams and bring to light the hidden treasures. Job says that mankind could do a lot of impressive things back there. They had a lot of great ability. God had given them a lot of knowledge, a lot of ability to do some amazing things. And God gives us knowledge to do amazing things too. We just got to use it. Got to use what God gives us to do. And it's very impressive that they knew what all of these stones were and the value of them and how they got them out of the ground. I knew about the gold, I didn't know about a lot of this other stuff. However, Job goes on, chapter 28, verse 12. Says, but do people know where to find wisdom? Where can they find understanding? No one knows where to find it, for it is not found among the living. It is not here, says the ocean, nor is it here, says the sea. It cannot be bought with gold. It cannot be purchased with silver. It's worth more than all the gold of Ophir, greater than precious onyx or lapis lazuli. Wisdom is more valuable than gold and crystal. It cannot be purchased with jewels mounted in fine gold. Coral and jasper are worthless in trying to get it. The price of wisdom is far above rubies. We've heard that. The price of wisdom is far above rubies. Verse 19, precious peridot from Ethiopia cannot be exchanged for it. Peridot is a gem that can only be found in volcanic eruptions of lava. It's something that they found in lava beds. So there's another fun fact for you. Not sure if that's worth anything. It's worth more than purest gold. Verse 20, but do people know where to find wisdom? Where can they find understanding? It is hidden from the eye of all humanity. Even the sharp-eyed birds in the sky cannot discover it. Destruction and death say, we've heard only rumors of where wisdom can be found. God alone understands the way to wisdom. He knows where it can be found, for he looks throughout the whole earth and sees everything under the heavens. You know, I think of the Lord's Prayer when we say, our Father who is in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. God has some interesting things that he does here on earth, and we want that to happen in our lives as well. Verse 25, he decided how hard the wind should blow and how much rain should fall. He made the laws for the rain. He laid out a path for the lightning. Wow. Then he saw wisdom and evaluated it. He set it in place. Excuse me. Set it in place and examined it thoroughly. And this is what he says to all humanity. So if this is what God says, I want to hear it. The fear of the Lord is true wisdom. To forsake evil is real understanding. How many times have we ever said or heard these words, I don't know what to do? Well, the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. That's what the Bible says. If we have the reverence for God, if we are not abandoning what God says to do, if we're not turning our back on God, if we have this reverential fear of God and awe of God, there is wisdom that can begin in that relationship. Fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. And how many times have we heard somebody ask the question, and maybe we've asked it ourselves, I don't understand. I don't understand why this is happening. I don't understand why this is necessary. I don't understand why I am suffering. I don't understand why these evil people are prospering. Job asked a lot of whys in his speeches. But to forsake evil is real understanding. In other words, to put aside everything that is not of God in our lives, that is against God, the sin. What did Paul say? To lay aside every weight and the sin that does so easily beset us, and then we'll run the race with patience, looking to Jesus, the author and the finisher of our faith. And in another place, Paul said that we press toward the mark of the high calling of Christ. So that, to me, is real understanding. Solomon said those words, trust in the Lord with all of your heart. Lean not on your understanding. You know, sometimes we try to find wisdom in our own understanding. But as Job pointed out, you can't buy it. You can't learn it. Education won't give it to you. You can have prestige in the community and position in the community. That's not going to give you wisdom. You can have political skills, but that's not wisdom. Real wisdom has to come from God. So trust in the Lord with all your heart. Lean not on your own understanding. In all of your ways acknowledge Him. There's where the understanding comes right there. We acknowledge God in everything we say, everything we do, every decision we make. It's important that we at least reach out to God and say, God, what do you think about this? If we're planning a vacation, God, what do you think about this? If we're going to make a purchase, God, what do you think about this? And let God begin to show us the way. It says if we will acknowledge Him in all of our ways, He will direct our path. It says don't be wise in your eyes. That's the way to real wisdom. That's the way to real understanding, is the fear of the Lord and forsaking evil. And we know that Job was a very good example of that early on in his life, because God said that he was blameless, a man of integrity, one who feared God and stayed away from evil. So it just seems that to me, just reading this portion right here, it seems that Job's mind is pretty sharp for a guy that is going through severe pain and emotional trauma and mental trauma. His mind is really sharp. You know, when I'm going through something like that, I don't think my mind is that sharp. I don't think I could think as well as Job is thinking right now, because your mind is on getting rid of the pain all the time. And he spent a lot of time with that. But it looks to me like he's starting to come out of it. We'll see if it continues. All right. Then Job wishes he could return to the good old days. I love this topic, the good old days. How many of you remember the good old days? You know, fond memories of your childhood, maybe your school that you went to, happy times, maybe times when you just felt like you were somebody special. You know, back then I was somebody, and you have fond memories of those times when you were the star of your own movie. You know, it was your life, and it was good. It was a simpler time when things were much simpler and more carefree. You know, when I was a boy, and Cheryl and I have visited the old farmhouse maybe 2, 3, 4 times since we've been married. But before my parents divorced and we moved with my mom to Dallas, we lived on a rented farm. And it was just a frame house with a few sheds and a couple of barns and a nice large area for a garden. And on the other side, there was a horse where they would train their horses. So it was really interesting. And just down the block, just a walk away, we had a stocked pond where I would go fishing all the time. Just walk down there and go fishing. And then just a bicycle ride away was the town of Owenaville, and where old men would sit in the country store. They had one store and one gas station. That was basically the town. And they would sit out on the porch of that country store and play dominoes and talk about their good old days. And so we all like to remember the good old days. And this is Job's memory of his good old days. Job speaks of his former blessings, chapter 29. If I got time, yes I do. Job continues speaking. I long for the years gone by when God took care of me. Job, God's still doing that, but I understand you think he's abandoned you there. When God took care of me. When he lit up the way before me and I walked safely through the darkness. When I was in my prime, oh yeah, if we could all just be back in our prime one more time. My prime left me a long time ago, I'm afraid, in the darkness. When I was in my prime, God's friendship was felt in my home. The Almighty was still with me, and my children were around me. Oh, yeah, Job, that's a tough one, man. He lost all 10 of his kids. I can understand that he would be a little upset about that. He wants that time back. He wants a way back machine where he can get in that time machine and go back to that time. My steps were awash in cream, and the rocks gushed olive oil for me. Those were the days when I went to the city gate and took my place among the honored leaders. The young stepped aside when they saw me, and even the aged rose in respect at my coming. The princes stood in silence and put their hands over their mouths. The highest officials of the city stood quietly, holding their tongues in respect. All who heard me praised me. All who saw me spoke well of me. Oh my goodness, Job was a big deal back then, wasn't he? In his younger days. You remember he was the richest man in the area, so naturally he had some influence. And we're going to find out why he was so respected next week as we go through the second half of this chapter. And it is amazing to me. You know, a lot of the things that he was being accused of by his friends, Job's going to put a stop to that next week as we go through it. So Job wanted what we all want at times, to go back in time. We want to relive some things. Maybe we want to change some things, do some things differently, say something differently that we shouldn't have said, or do something differently that we should have done, or maybe go back and make a better decision in life. Or maybe we just are like the old George Burns song, I wish I was 18 again. Back, you know, we're not. I don't want to be 18. I don't want to go through that ever again. But I really don't even want the farmhouse, because you see, when we have memories, we remember the good times a lot. And Job was remembering some of his happy times. But I remember that farmhouse, but I push aside the memories of the copperheads and the rattlesnakes and the water moccasins. I put aside the endless bug stings from wasps and hornets and mosquitoes. I put aside so much, the coldness of the house, the hotness of the house in the summer. We raised our window. Well, of course, when you raise a window and you don't have a screen on it, guess what comes in? More bugs, more critters, more everything. So I put aside those memories. I just remembered the nice country store and the stocked pond where I went fishing and the nice garden. I remembered all of that. And Job was remembering those good times. He wanted to go back in time. He wanted to redo some of that. He wanted another chance to experience those things. And I just think that is pretty amazing. But what did Paul write about? He said, whatever state I am in, I have resolved to be content. And I don't think he was talking about Texas, but he might have been. Texas is a pretty good state to be content in. No, Paul was talking about the conditions that we're in. And Paul was a guy that went through a lot of really tough stuff. But he said, I'm just going to be content right here in this jail cell, in these stocks and bonds. I'm going to be content with my lot in life. I'm going to be content having to make tents to make a living. I'm going to be content with what I have, even when I am hungry, even when I don't have proper clothing. He talked a lot about those things. But he said, in all of these things, I am more than a conqueror. So really and truly, if we really get right down to it, these are the good old days right now. Right here, right now are the good old days in our life. If we'll just look around and see the goodness of God everywhere around us. This world's in a mess. I mean, I'll admit that. The world is an absolute mess. We are living in these last days, and things are not pleasant everywhere, but there is good stuff all the way around us if we will just stop and look. You know, if we just maybe take a drive outside of this concrete jungle, see some farmland. If you want to take a longer drive, see some mountains. Look at the Grand Canyon. And when we went to the Grand Canyon, I thought, man, God, how did you do this? It was amazing to me to see those things. The oceans, I'm fascinated with oceans. And so just to see the vastness of the oceans and to go to a nice lake and just enjoy the beauty of what God has created. There is good all the way around it, but we're not enjoying a lot of it because why? We are wrapped up in so much stuff. Our minds are constantly in a whirl. Our world is constantly on our mind, and we're not keeping our mind on God, who gives us the peace and gives us the joy and wants us to live a happy life and a prosperous life and a blessed life and a healthy life. We don't have our minds in the right places. I remember years ago, we went to Lake Murray, Cheryl and I, and we were at the beach, and I think this was maybe 6 months, a year after I had had open heart surgery. And we were there to relax during the day. So I had my lounge chair out, had my ice chest right next to me, had a book or something to read. Maybe it's just a phone, I don't know. But there I was on that beautiful lake, overlooking some of God's great creation, and I could not relax for anything. And anybody that knows me knows that I know how to relax a little bit. I'm good at that. I major in relaxation. But for some reason, I could not relax. Every few minutes, I had to get up and walk around. It was as if I was hyper or something, had too much caffeine or something. I don't know. But I could not relax. And it wasn't my nature, because my nature is to sit there quietly and enjoy the breeze, enjoy the view, enjoy the snacks that we brought and all of the food. But my mind was in such a whirl. And we let that happen to us sometimes in life, where we don't see the good that God has got all around us. And we look for the bad so much, and bad is readily available to us. But if we would just focus on God, God has good things for you. God has miracle things for you. God is doing an amazing work in these last days. And a lot of times we don't see it because we don't want to see it. We prefer to focus on CNN and Fox News, and we prefer to focus on what's going on wrong and where we live and where we work, and it will crowd our minds and weigh us down. We need to put some of that stuff aside sometimes and say, God, clear my mind. Let the words of my mouth, the meditation of my heart be acceptable in your sight. That's what David prayed, and boy, that guy had trouble everywhere. Everybody wanted to kill him at one time, and he wanted that to be sure that his heart was right before God and that he was focused on the right things. Let my meditation be on you, God. Let my words come from you, God. Let me be totally engulfed in you. Let me just wrap myself in you and show me the goodness of this world. Show me what's out there. Show me how you've taken care of me all these years. Remind me of all of the good things you've done in my life. And God, as we begin to get our mind off of all of this, we begin to see our problems that we have now. And boy, we have problems as we get older, don't we? A lot of them, the problems that we have now become smaller as we see how big our God has been in our lives. Because God has been good to us in everything. And I think Job is starting to realize some of this. I think we're going to see next week, he's going to talk about why people respected him. And then he's going to talk about his anguish. And then he's going to talk about his innocence a little bit more. But as we finish up Job's talk, we can see him maybe coming out of it. Of course, he's got a ways to go. He's got one test that's going to be at the end before God can really pour out blessing on his life again. But he's going to pass that test. We'll see that later. I hate to give away the ending to you guys. All right. Let's pray. Father, in the name of Jesus, we thank you tonight. God, you are good to us. And help us to, God, we may go through stuff here. We may have some tough times. There may be pain in our lives. There may be trauma in our lives. We may have loss in our lives, God. Things that we don't understand, God. Things that maybe we don't know what to do. But we realize that all of that is found in you. God, you are our wisdom, our knowledge, our understanding. Because, God, if we need wisdom, all we got to do is ask you. If we need understanding, God, that's found in you as we put aside the things of this world and concentrate on you. God, you begin to show us and teach us and instruct us and guide us and lead us through the tough times. And God, we just appreciate everything that you do for us. Help us to open up our eyes and see the good in those around us and the good in our circumstances that is going to come out of it. And we thank you for it in Jesus' name. Amen. God bless you guys.